Everybody wants that clean and in-your-face vocal that cuts through the mix. The problem that a lot of us have though is maintaining control over the tonal balance of the vocal throughout the entirety of the vocal performance. The room we record in, the microphone that we use, the distance away from the mic when we record, and even the notes that we are singing can cause certain frequencies to resonate more than others, and those can become jarring to the ear. So in this video, I'm going to show you a simple and effective way to smooth out the harshness in your vocal. Okay, so here I'm using this new plugin called Silk Vocal by Waves Audio. And most of you might be familiar with other similar plugins to this one like Soothe 2 or Gulfoss that essentially detect and suppress harsh frequencies dynamically. And by dynamically, I mean the plugin is finding the frequencies on its own and turning them down only when those frequencies become too harsh. When a frequency is causing issues, it's going to suppress that frequency down. But when a frequency isn't causing issues, it's going to return that frequency back to its original level. So this is different from a regular EQ. With a regular EQ, when you cut or notch out a frequency, that change is set in stone. It's like that for good. It's a static change. That specific frequency will always be pulled down by the exact amount that you tell the EQ to pull it down by. Now, this can be problematic because a lot of times a certain frequency is only causing issues at certain times throughout the song. So it's typically not very effective to be cutting a frequency at times when it doesn't need to be cut. Now, a lot of EQs do have a dynamic EQ feature to them, but the problem still remains. You have to go and find and search for those frequencies by ear, and you also only have a limited amount of EQ points to work with. Plugins like this have so many EQ points going on at once, working to suppress those frequencies that it determines as harsh. All right, so the way that this plugin actually works is by breaking the vocal down into 3 different frequency sections, similar to what you would see on a multi-band compressor. So you have your lows, you have your mids, and you have your highs. So your low band, as you can see, is everything below 300 hertz. And the mid-range is everything from 300 hertz all the way up to 4,000 hertz. And the high range is obviously 4,000 hertz and above. Now, the mid-range does have these adjustable bands right here to kind of customize the frequency range of the mid-range. Now, these knobs right here for each frequency range are going to control how much suppression of these harsh frequencies that you're going to get within each band. Now, the low, the mid, and the high range all have their own solo features. So if you click on this headphone right here, it's going to solo that band. So that's going to be the only frequency section that you're going to hear played back. You can also turn each band on and off. So if you don't want a certain frequency range to be suppressed, you can just go ahead and disengage it. Now up here at the top, you have the Delta button. And when you click this, it's going to start flashing. And basically when this is engaged, all you're going to hear are the frequencies that you're removing from the vocal. So this is actually pretty useful when you're trying to get a feel for the frequencies that you're taking away from the vocal. Up here in the top left, you have a voice type that you can select from. Over here on the right side of the plugin, you have a compressor, and then you also have an output gain knob, as well as a link feature to link the output gain knob with the compressor to gain match your signal. Do keep in mind that this compressor is going to compress your entire signal. It works independently from the frequency bands, right? It's going to compress the vocal signal as it's leaving the plugin. And the compressor itself is actually the Waves RVox compressor for those of you who are familiar with that one. So that's a very handy tool to have built into this plugin. Now, I also forgot to mention that down here at the bottom of the plugin, you can click this arrow, and that's going to open up some additional settings. You have a high pass filter right here at 60 hertz. You have a speed knob to control how fast or how slow you want to suppress the harsh frequencies. You have a precision control right here, and this is basically controlling how sharp or how wide you want these cuts to be. You have an auto makeup gain switch. You have a noise gate, and then you also have a mix knob. All right, so let's go ahead and take a listen to how this thing sounds and kind of dial it in on a vocal. Just to show y'all, my vocal chain and where I have it loaded. First off, I just have some tuning, and then I have a high pass filter, and then I have the Silk Vocal plugin. So it's actually early in the chain. I like to have it loaded before a compressor, so that way we kind of clean up the vocal before we feed it into the compressor.
Clearly, you and me have a difference in between us, and I don't know where it leaves losers, 'cause for me, I always try to be the one who makes others feel okay. Socially, I don't really know who I'm supposed to be. Feel so out of place when they're approaching me. Maybe I just need to open up and let loose. But every time I let my guard down, it seems everything just starts to go south. And I notice them noticing me from afar. I just wanna break free from all of these chains that imprison me.
All right, so I think it's sounding pretty good right there. And one thing to point out is that I did not overdo this effect. You're gonna find that if you start suppressing these frequencies too much, your vocal is gonna start to sound thin. A plugin like this is for control and for balance. Gentle processing is gonna go a long way in order to achieve a smooth vocal. Let's go ahead and turn on the delta feature and then solo the high band, so that way the only thing we're gonna hear are the higher frequencies that we're taking away from the vocal. Okay, next let's go ahead and solo the mid band. Okay, so right there in the mid-range was a very good example of how overwhelming these harsh frequencies can be. And when you start to add compression and other processing to the vocal, these problems are going to become more apparent. Now, I'm not going to use the compressor section over here simply because I already have a compressor loaded on this vocal chain. But remember, this dynamic section right here is essentially just the RVox compressor. So for those of you that are familiar with this RVox compressor right here, this is a classic. It's kind of nice to just have that tool right here already loaded on the Silk Vocal plugin. So I really find that the functionality of this plugin is really helping me speed up my workflow because it's automatically finding these frequencies and pulling them back. So really all I have to do is adjust a few parameters and I'm able to achieve the sound that I'm wanting. And again, I know there are other plugins like Soothe 2 and Gulfoss that do this in a similar manner, but the overall concept of suppressing these problem frequencies in your vocal, no matter what plugin that you use, it's going to be a game changer for your workflow. All right, so that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the content. Please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Leave me a comment, let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.